Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Micro MBA session 6. My name's Dr. Alex Fenton, and I'm joined by my very capable co-host, Trevor. How are you doing, Trevor?
I'm very well. Good morning, Alex, and hello, everyone. My name is Trevor. Good
Brilliant
to see you again today.
So, Trevor, today we're talking about operations. So this is an absolutely critical field, and I think in current as well, it's been very much in the public spotlight, hasn't it? For various reasons. We've had various kind of global challenges and technology shifts. So really excited that we're going to be introducing Ceri in a short while as well to talk us through this interesting and challenging world of ops. What do you think, Trevor?
Absolutely. So when it comes to operations and listening to some of these new challenges, we can see all that is being related to operations when it comes to business, when it comes to management in today's business environment. So it will be interesting to see some of this new stuff that will be coming in from industry today. And listening to Ceri, I'm sure we're going to gain a lot. And it's also interesting how our audience, our students, our MBA students and participants will be able to link some of these really units or departments or subject area within the MBA field together. We've talked about sustainability, we've talked about marketing, we've talked about finance, we've talked about strategy, now operations. So it's just about putting all of them together and saying, okay, how do they relate? How can one function? How does the other one complement the other? So I just think that'll be an interesting one this morning.
That's a really good point, Trevor. I think, I guess you and I and Gosler are kind of the glue between all this stuff, aren't we, to join the dots up. But just on that front, before we dive into the subjects of the day, Trevor, as usual, we've got a couple of exciting updates from the University of Chester. Welcome to session 6, everybody. And just a quick reminder, this is coming from the University of Chester Business School. And obviously, we've had a great deal of success recently, including winning the Times Higher Education Awards 2024 for Business School of the Year, which is really exciting, Trevor, isn't it? And obviously, we've won a wide range of awards as well for including the What Uni Awards, Business School of the Year, and including International Study and Student Support, Trevor.
It's been an interesting year, 2024. It's just been like accolades upon accolades. And I think it just tells about the sort of wonderful students we've got, colleagues, and that environment, and also our relationship when it comes to how we relate with local businesses, the community, our host. I think all of these tend to reflect in some of these wonderful awards that we've received. But again, having this award is only, for me, I see it as a challenge, because then you need to keep it up, So that means we've got a lot of work to do. We need to keep supporting students. We need to keep creating value, and providing a very pleasant sort of learning environment for our students, where teaching and learning can be seen as quite innovative and creative. And as a result, we're able to develop responsible leaders. So I think it's a good one to look forward to, particularly as we'll be heading into 2025. But starting 2025 as a Business School of the Year, I think that's brilliant.
Great start, Trevor. Yeah, good thoughts. So just a bit of housekeeping stuff as usual. Micro MBA is still open to registrations. It's free to register. It's online. It's live stream and recorded, streamed to Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. We've got our own learning management system, which we can give you access to, which includes the quizzes and certificate, which Trevor's going to tell you a little bit more about in a minute. And it is 8 one-hour sessions between October and January for our experts, live discussion and QA. So the learning management system, by now, people should have registered and accessed that, but there is a lost password function as well if anybody needs it, which is super important. So Trevor, talk us through how people can get the digital certificate.
Absolutely. So in getting the digital certificate, all you need to do already, there's one quiz up there, and I'm so pleased that most people are already completing the quiz, and there've been some fantastic sort of results, outcomes. So which is very, very good. So I'm pleased to see that everyone tends to be engaging. So for those of you who've not yet taken the quiz, please log in, go online, you've got your details, and try and complete the quiz. Because for you to be able to get a digital certificate, all you need to do is to complete both sets of quizzes. But one of them is already available, so try and complete that. Some people might ask me, all right, I've missed a session or two, so how do I get to be able to complete this? All you need to do is watch the recordings. The recordings are available. Watch the recordings, and that should help you in terms of how you're able to complete the quiz. Okay, and even if you're not able to get it right the first time, do it again, and definitely I'm sure you'll be able to do it. I've received some fantastic feedback, some really well thought out feedbacks, and thank you for those positive feedback. So guys, I'll tell you, please do this as soon as you can, and I'm sure that at the end you'll be able to get the certificate to show that you've participated and you've attended the micro MBA session as delivered by Chester Business School. And again, that's added call it added something you can actually put into your CV, something you could talk about, something that just adds value to you. I wish I could do one myself, but again, well done, and I'm looking forward to guys, everyone completing the quizzes as soon as possible. Thank you.
Brilliant. So just a quick reminder, quiz 1 is available now. You can, if you've not yet registered, do so and have a go at the quiz. People are getting 9s and 10s out of 10, Trevor, which I start to wonder whether I thought I've made it sufficiently challenging. We've obviously got some very smart people on this micro MBA, but like you say, I was talking to one of our profs in education yesterday, and they said it's really valuable, to collect up these digital certificates, share them on LinkedIn, and this is one that anybody can complete. So we're excited about that, and we hope people can get through and complete the quizzes and get hold of the certificate. So just a quick one on what's going on at university. Obviously, it's been Christmas. You can tell, Trevor, with my I've got my festive jacket on today. It's pantomime season. You see some of our students and international students there with Santa. We've had various events, including at our beautiful Queen's Park campus, where our Dean Kurt, you'll remember from session 2, was hosting a session on Christmas carols with our staff, students and local residents, and more than a few reminders that Chester Business School, our business school of the year. It was really good, actually. The residents, the local residents coming in and meeting our staff and students, and we're super impressed with the accolades and the hosting as well that we've been able to achieve this year. So I think they are super proud of having Chester Business School on their doorstep as well, and find it quite exciting. A quick one as well. I want to mention Chester Credentials, which is something that we have been working on at the university to offer a free kind of online short courses, what we call nano credentials, to boost employability, which cover things like personal branding, career development, strategies, digital security, and search engine optimization as well. So these are for current students at the moment. We are looking at ways in which we might be able to extend that to other students and alumni and etc. as well. But it's just an example of some of the value add that we bring to our students, and obviously thinking about their employability and how we link with industry and make sure they've got the right skills, etc. as well. So it's all to do with leveling up your career through that value add in addition to your program of study. And over to you, Trevor.
Yes, and for today, looking at the learning outcomes we've developed for the micro MBA is about, we're looking at the optimized session of it. Here we want to see how to optimize supply chain operations and foster sort of high performance organizations using digital tools, thinking about cultural change and people development strategies. So that's what we're looking at. How do we optimize all of these that we have, in our organizations? So that's what we're going to be covering today. So interesting. And again, please, for those who think you've not yet signed up, or you've got friends or network who will be interested, by all means, they can still sign up.
Great
and
stuff.
This is going to be the last one for the year, which is going to commence in a few minutes, and where we're going to have Ceri on board. And we've got two more for January, and one of them is going to be for the 9th of January, and the other one will be for the 15th of January. And for the 9th of January, we're going to be talking about marketing, and then we're going to have Professor Morven doing that 10 a.m. UK time. So we're all going to take a break after today. Enjoy your Christmas break. Again, looking forward to seeing all of you in 2025 to continue all of these. And then the very last one, which is going to be 15th of January on digital transformation. And that will be covered by my very good friend, Alex. And so we're looking forward to you joining us in the rest of the session. And where you can, please will suggest where you can join on real time. Join on real time if possible. It just helps us in terms of that engagement, in terms of that questions and participation. And I'm pleased that few people are able to take some of these conversations, even meeting us on LinkedIn or social media, even on emails. So by all means, if you can join on real time, ensure that you're engaging, participating and being involved. Thank you very much. Thank you, Alex.
That's a great shout, Trevor. It's always great to see people live, isn't it? And hear from people in the questions, the comments, and people telling us what countries they're joining from and so forth. So yeah, just another call to try and join live where you possibly can. So that brings us to the main event of the day, Trevor. And I'm really pleased that Ceri has been able to join us today for this one. And we've mentioned a few times that Ceri's going to be joining us today. She is our industry expert on this topic. And she's got 15 years of experience in supply chain management consulting. She's a company partner and a learning development lead at SC Excellence Ltd. She's got a really strong record in designing, implementing, engaging training development programs, facilitating leading workshops, conducting thorough training needs assessments, and developing digital content to support staff development and continuous improvement programs. And she's got a solid academic background and professional certification. So it's been brilliant working with you, Ceri, and thank you so much for joining us today. We're really thrilled and looking forward to this session. So without further ado, I'm gonna hand over to you.
Thank you very much, Alex and Trevor. Thank you very much as well for the invite. As you know, I'm hugely passionate about the MBA program, having done an MBA in the past myself. And I'm also equally passionate about Chester because I'm lucky enough to be doing my doctorate at Chester University, so I can't rate it highly enough. So today I'm going to talk to you about operations management. I have about 15 minutes to talk. Please feel free to interrupt me with questions at any point. If I don't see them, Alex or Trevor will let me know the questions. If I'm speaking too quickly, which I tend to do, please message to slow down. I won't be offended. So I'm going to cover today a quick introduction of who I am and where I come from. I'm going to actually talk to you about what a supply chain is, because over the years, I've found that there's many different definitions. And in fact, you can have spent hours talking to people and realize that you'd actually missed to explain what are we talking about when we talk about supply chain. I'm going to talk about some of the key manufacturing issues. I specialize in manufacturing, so today we'll be focused on that area of the supply chain. I'm going to talk to you about the top 5 challenges we face when we are called in to consult for people. I'm going to talk to you about the cause of loss, which is a huge focus for us in our company. And then I'm going to go on to the stuff which a lot of people are hugely passionate about, which is how to build a high-performance supply chain. So we're going to talk about some HBO principles, and then we're going to open the floor to any questions. A little bit about me. So this is my team. I feel old when I say collectively we have over 200 years of manufacturing experience between us. So our 2 senior partners have held SVP positions in numerous FTSE companies all over the world. And the 3 other colleagues, we have worked in large organizations as well. And we focus more on the cultural change and organizational design. So our company really believes that there's 2 elements to operational excellence, which is our focus. There's people and culture, which I'll talk about, and there's tools and processes. So we really believe in the importance of both. So my background is fast-moving consumer goods. I started my career at Unilever, actually in IT, believe it or not. And then I moved gradually to planning and supply chain and customer service. And I ended up doing a lot of work in supply chain, HR, and learning and development. So that's the area I'm hugely passionate about. What is a supply chain? This is actually a slide that our company developed ourselves because we spent so long explaining to people. And I believe we've actually recently published this. So I believe it's a really good slide to explain things. So when you talk about supply chain, historically, we talk, and all companies are different, I should caveat, but we talk about plan, source, make, and deliver. So planning spans across the supply chain. So you do planning for procurement, planning for manufacturing, and planning for the type of logistics, the delivery. Sourcing is all your procurement aspects where you purchase your raw materials, your supplies, the things you need to actually manufacture your product. Manufacturing is where I focus, and that's what you would think of as your traditional factories, people making products on product lines and actually making sure we can deliver to the customer. Then we've got delivery, which is what you would consider more the logistics side of things and the transportation to the customer. What's really important, and we often find when we go to a company, that there's a lack of integration with research and development and also engineering. Now, these aspects are hugely key. They're not within the supply chain, but they must be fully integrated with the supply chain to have a successful delivery to the customer and the consumer. So I'll give you an example of early product management, because we believe that you must involve research and development very early with the supply chain teams when they're designing a product. Can you imagine a research and development team, and this happens, designing an amazing product, which the customer's absolutely thrilled. This is absolutely brilliant. It's what we always wanted. And then supply chain are told very late in the day and say, but we can't make that because that won't work on our production lines, or the cost of that is enormous, or we can't get the raw materials, or we can't deliver it because it just doesn't make sense from a delivery perspective. So you can see the importance of research and development. Equally, early equipment management, we need to bring engineering to the table as well, because engineering is all about how you can make sure the machinery and the equipment we've got in the factory can make the product. Does it make sense? Does it work? Is it efficient? Now, you can imagine poor engineering get handed the product at the end of the day very often, and they have the same problem. So if we want to really optimize high-performance supply chain, we start with the innovation funnel with all of these teams at the table. And where I've seen this done really well is where these teams at the table. Looking at the right and the left, it's extremely important we also consider suppliers and consumers as well. If we're not considering our suppliers, we're not optimizing the costs of our products, and also we may not be able to get our products, so we need to risk manage there while we're in the design stage. And also we need to make sure we're delivering the consumer the product they want. So we talk about a very integrated, very tight-knit supply chain with lots of communication and collaboration. So I wanted to open up a question to the forum to say, what do you believe our key manufacturing issues are? There are no bad answers, by the way, and there's no one answer. So does anyone have any thoughts on the key manufacturing issues we might face when we go to our customers? If everyone's shy today, I might have to ask Alex and Trevor. I think you're on mute.
I've just popped that question onto the channels as well. But Trevor, what in your view, what are our key manufacturing issues?
I think some of them is when it comes to key manufacturing issues and how it relates to customers. One of them will be probably, are we able to develop or manufacture to meet the expectations of customers? That will be one again, and also getting it to them on time, effective and efficiency. That will be my key words here. Is effective, are we meeting this expectation? And again, are we meeting it on time? I think those are the two matters I would raise. And I'm sure at the end I'll have some other questions. It's a question to me, but then I'll have questions to Ceri.
Yeah,
Ceri, we've got a couple of people in there that joined us as well. I've got a couple of thoughts for you. So manic blue sky thinking.
Oh, I like that.
And another one is not realizing what the problem is. 100%,
100% on that one. The blue sky thinking, I love. I don't quite understand it, but I love it. Not realizing what the problem is. I think I could finish the presentation now because that's absolutely spot on. To your point, to your point, Trevor, absolutely. The customer is becoming much more demanding. I know, I'm a customer. So as a supply chain, we need to respond to that, but also manage our costs because costs are rising. So everything becomes a lot more complex. We need to become more agile in many, many ways. So what I was going to talk about firstly is actually timelines aren't realistic. Yeah, again, 100%. When we go into companies, we're called in to support operational excellence. And I wanted to talk about resource inefficiency, absolutely. The top 5 challenges we see, because you're probably going to think they're very, very simple things. Surely everyone gets that right. In fact, it's often the simple things in life that we find the hardest. And what we tend to find in operations is a lack of standard work. So standard work is how things are done. So in any process, if we took the university, there will be hundreds of standard work processes, and I'm sure many people are doing them in different ways. So what we look at for operations as well is inconsistent processes are ineffective. Imagine if someone comes and they pick up an operating line from someone else and they do it differently because they like to do things differently. The other guy was doing it in a great way. Maybe this person's doing it in a different way. And there's actually a lot of waste. We talk a lot about waste in operations. And in fact, everything we try to do is reduce waste. So standard work is really looking at the basic processes. What's the best practice process? Training it in, documenting it, and make sure everyone's doing it in a clear way. And that's looking at workflows and procedures. Variability and task execution leads to waste. COGS, the wonderful term, which I think I hear everywhere, is cost of goods sold. So cost of goods sold, high cost of goods sold is really when you're manufacturing a product, what is the direct costs involved in that? And that's things like, not just things like resource, that's materials, packaging, transport, everything that relates to the direct cost of goods sold. And everyone is under pressure without exception to reduce cost. I don't know one company that isn't. So we go through the whole COGS process and look at cost and opportunities for minimizing losses and improving profitability. That's a real challenge because you can imagine if you strip costs too much, you impact customer service. So that's a constant balancing act. Waste. I will talk a lot about the exciting topic of waste today, which seems to be my life. So we focus a lot on reducing and ideally eliminating waste. So Tim Woods, I need to get this right. I have written it down because I always get one of them wrong. So Tim Woods is the way we refer to the different types of waste and loss. So we have transport, inventory, motion, waiting, overproduction, overprocessing, defects, and skills. That's linked to the utilization of resources. Are we using skills efficiently? And what we can do is we can categorize those types of losses. And that's the first way to addressing them, finding the root cause, but more about that later. There's always opportunities to streamline, improve productivity. You've probably heard of value stream mapping, which is something we do a lot of. And then the 2 last areas I'll quickly touch on. Interestingly, as I said, our company focuses on leadership, cultural and organizational change, as well as tools and processes. So we find a lack of strategy into action. You may find a company has a strategy, but a strategy into action includes the actual, how are you going to implement that? What's your plan of implementation? Can everyone on the shop floor articulate what the strategy is? And if not, why not? So an OGSM is your objectives, goals, strategies, and measures. So we try to work with organizations in ensuring they are really robust, they are clear, and they are setting up the organizational design enables the success of the OGSM. Leadership and culture, again, something we're hugely passionate about. We tend to find if the leadership style isn't aligned with the organizational goals, there are issues. There can be a misalignment with the organizational culture and strategic priorities. And a really key one is lack of engagement and people investment, because people are the heart of the success of operational excellence. When we talk about losses, we tend to always use loss trees when we start out. When we go to an organization, we would look and we would say, well, let's talk about what your problems are, to the point earlier on LinkedIn. Great one. What are we trying to solve? Where's the loss happening? And what is the root cause of the loss? So I always love showing a tree here, because this is the essence of root cause analysis. So when you do a loss tree, which is a really common TPM, lean, world-class manufacturing tool, it's very, very simple. And you can apply it to everything. It doesn't need to be supply chain. Our symptom we're talking about in this instant, by way of example, is organizational ineffectiveness. What you'll actually find, this is almost what we'll find in every organization, is 20% of the losses are happening from tools and processes. And this is really interesting, because when people have a problem, they always rush to buy a tool. A lot of the cases, let's implement SAP, let's implement etc. Let's change this tool, let's change this process. But in fact, 80% of the losses are usually related to cultural change and workforce. So if we first look at processes, we'll look at workflows. We've talked about lack of standard work, poor execution and variability in task execution, which leads to waste and often defects. Ineffective communication. We mentioned communication at the start. It is a key throughout the whole operational excellence process. Together, we have synergy. Together, we're more innovative and we're more effective. Misaligned interdepartmental processes, very linked to communication. Where there's complexity and misalignment, there's waste. So again, the topic of waste. So process waste, redundant processes, inefficient workflow design, overproduction and inventory waste. Inventory is a huge cost in organizations, and everyone's trying to get that golden balance of reducing inventory, but making sure you can deliver to your customer. Lack of process transparency. And in terms of tools, underutilization of tools, it's very easy to buy a tool. In fact, if you're putting poor quality data into a tool, it can actually cause a lot more problems. You have to retrain properly. There could be data mismanagement and tool duplication. Often people are both, if there's siloed cultures in an organization and ways of working, two people may have bought the same tool in the same year. And actually, you've got huge issues from that and complexity. Where if the time was taken to collaborate and discuss and involve each other early on, again, to one supply chain, there's less risk of that happening. Now, the people, this is the side that I work largely on. So 80% of losses are related to cultural and workforce-related challenges. People don't believe that, and it's very difficult to quantify, but it is the case. And we've been doing this, as I say, for about 200 years. And we find that working on the culture and leadership of an organization is key to the success of operational excellence. So in terms of the causes of this, if I look at the problem, lack of investment, turnover and retention challenges are two common ones. This isn't a finite list, but two common ones we've faced. People often leave because there's insufficient investment in learning and development. People need career paths and progression. And often if that's not thought through, there's a career blocker. You lose people. When you lose people, apart from the fact that that's very disappointing for an organization when you lose good people who are passionate, there's a cost of recruitment, there's a cost of getting new people. There's a whole impact on the organization as a whole. Poor morale and low engagement, which can be linked to reward and recognition, many things, and leadership. Again, we come back to leadership and culture. People want to work they want to enjoy going to work. So that's key, creating an environment which is conducive to retaining good quality employees. Turnover and retention challenges. We have people issues when there's high turnover rates, as we talked about, because there's retraining and there's motivation issues, and it's not great for the organization as a whole. It's important to focus on employee well-being. That's another reason that people lose, and a misalignment between roles and strategic goals. People want to feel motivated. They want to have a clear ownership of their area, and they want to feel they make a difference. And you tend to find when people don't have those things, there's not clear vision, there's not clear direction, you get demotivation, and people tend to leave organizations. So I wanted to talk quickly about what do we do? So we've got all of these problems. So how do we tackle these things? So this is again one from our company. We tend to look at 3 key things to help build high performance organizations. Aligning the organization. TPM can be lean / any world-class manufacturing process, because they all work on very similar principles. We just come from, because of our background, we tend to implement TPM, but it's very, very similar principles. And thirdly, engaging people. I will explain what we do in more detail in a second, but I wanted to start with a couple of inspirational quotes, because I've always found that to be something which, I found it to be quite an inspiring area. So when we look at aligning the organization, if I could sum that up in a quote, it would be from one of our gurus, Henry Ford, who said, if everyone is moving together forward, then success takes care of itself. For those who don't know Henry Ford is a guru of manufacturing and one of my geeky heroes. So he invented the mass production line. And actually his T Ford, he managed to nail the simplification of design, the mass production, the reduction in cost. He built a pathway for the future in that space. And he famously said, the customer can have any T Ford as long as it's Model T, as long as it's in black. So his point was, if we simplify the design, we can improve the efficiency, the production and the manufacturing. TPM, or any loss reduction, world-class manufacturing. This is a success management quote from Robert Collier, but kind of sums up what we do. Success is the sum of small efforts repeated day in and day out. This is a very common mindset in continuous improvement, which is what a lot of these methodologies are based on. And it's the point that you don't need to change the world in one day. Baby steps, small steps every day. And I do this when I've run a few marathons and I train. I'm not going to run it tomorrow, but I can walk 5 steps today, or I can walk a mile today. And if you keep making small changes, you achieve success. This is also really important because you get a lot of people on operators, traditionally we call them frontline associates. So our colleagues will think, I can't make a difference. Everyone can make a difference. It's just about small efforts. So we encourage innovation. We can encourage autonomous maintenance, which is around making sure everyone maintains their own equipment, because later down the line, that stops a defect where an engineer has to come in and fix things, or a production line's down, costing hundreds of thousands of pounds. And finally, last but certainly not least, on creating value for our customers. I love this quote from Simon Sinek, who I use a lot in my training material, an amazing leadership guru, coach, motivational speaker who I have a huge amount of respect for. So Sinek said, when people are financially invested, they want a return. When people are emotionally invested, they want to contribute. Now, the key here is you want everyone in your organization to contribute in a high performance organization. So now I'd like to talk about what do we practically do, because I'm sure you're thinking, that's really interesting, Ceri, but how do you do that? Because that sounds very fluffy. And one of the things about our organization is we are operational people. So we actually use as our strapline, I think we're not traditional theoretical consultants. We're people who are as happy on the shop floor as we are in the boardroom. And one of the first things we do is we go to factories, we talk to people, we understand what's happening. And that's the principle of Gemba, which you may have heard of if you understand operations, which is go seek, ask why, and listen, and be respectful. And if you talk to people that are actually working on the lines, you'll start to understand what the root of the problems are. So looking at the 3 areas, firstly, aligning the organizations. This is pulling the whole presentation together. We look at aligning, working on the strategy into action and the OGSM, and lining this across all departments, making sure the strategy, the vision, how it's going to be done is clear, and that can be articulated throughout the organization. We help with clear and consistent communication of the message and how it's going to be implemented, and making sure everyone understands their role in the delivery of the program. KPIs. It's amazing how little emphasis a lot of companies have on measures, Peter Drucker famously said, if you can't measure it, you can't manage it. And it's absolutely true. So one of the first things we look to support organizations with is KPIs at all level of the organization and visual management. It's not just enough to have a KPI. You need to make sure it's in your face every day. People are aware of what it is and they're tracking it consistently. And then organizational design. Again, sorry for all the quotes today, but they're all things which sort of really resonate with me. David Hanna said, all organizations are perfectly designed to get the results they get. And the point of that is, if your organization isn't enabling the results, if your culture isn't enabling the results that you want to achieve, you're not going to get them. So you need to review your organizational design, and that needs to be done at a leadership level and then embedded within the organization. World-class manufacturing, TPM or lean, and the zero loss mindset, reducing the waste, reducing the losses, continual improvement, implementing best practice. So proactive maintenance. So you might call it planned maintenance. We like to call it proactive maintenance because it's really making sure everyone is managing their own equipment. So in fact, you're taking the skills of people up to a level where, you know, traditionally people that were classed as doers are now empowered to manage things at a higher level. So fix basic equipment problems, maintain the machinery, look out for defects, etc. So we develop people, leaving the engineers, people who were traditionally brought in to fix the problem, freer to actually do work on more innovative ideas. And people have more time for innovation. People are heard and listened to and valued. And when people are taken up a skill level, it's a really positive thing, and you see amazing things. Learning and continuous development, I've put here. Learning is forever. I'm a firm believer, having spent my entire life educating myself on the side, that this isn't a one-off activity. Everyone needs a development plan, no matter what level of the organization. It needs to be aligned with where they want to go and what they want to achieve. And that's absolutely key. People always need to be learning. We need to foster a culture of shared responsibility for operational excellence. This is not something leaders do and frontline associates are told. This is something that needs to happen together. And it's only when you create the culture of everyone being bought in and supportive and seeing the value in operational excellence that you create real value for customers. And standard work we've talked about already, absolutely key. When you get a best practice, document it, communicate it, roll it out and maintain it. Last but certainly not least, again, engaging people. Again, this is about reward and recognition. People need to have someone they're aiming to, and they need to be recognized as having done a good job. That doesn't need to always be financial. People are recognized in very different ways. And I know that sometimes I like my belly rubbed and being told that I've done a good job, even now. And I think that's really important at every level of the organization. Employee engagement and collaboration. The slide, and a culture of trust. So this is all about everyone working together, really being engaged with what they're doing and collaborating for success. Now that was the end of my presentation today, and I'll open the floor to any questions. Thank you very much for having me, Alex and Trevor.
That's absolutely brilliant, Ceri. We're really, loads of really interesting ideas there. We've started to get some questions already, and I'd invite the audience to ask any more questions. Trevor, have you got a question, or would you like me to bring the audience in first?
I think let's bring the audience in first, yeah, please.
Okay, great stuff. So the first question then, Ceri, is great, and I agree there's a clear gap in creating investment in personal development of those who want it. However, do you also find there are losses of key individuals who are being pushed through their careers by leaders when they're quite happy where they are in their status and don't want to develop further than they already have?
Yes, 100%. And if I can use a personal example, I was just thinking if I can. Yes, I can. In fact, that's where I left mainstream. I had a very successful career. And I actually left my organization because I didn't want to progress to the next level. And in fact, I was on a very fast track. So I can speak from personal experience. Everyone needs their own path. And for me, I I just really enjoyed doing, and I didn't enjoy a lot of the politics that go with a large organization, even though I was very, very happy. I was very well supported and I was very, very well trained. So I agree. And I actually had someone say to me once, this is when I was a young manager, this is great, but I don't want to change the world. I want to retire in 5 years, Ceri. And I really listened and I learned from that. And I said, well, how can I support you? How can I support your particular plan and what you want to do by the end of it? And we manage that in a different way. So I think we assume that everyone wants to progress. And one of the first things you should do when we do any learning and development plan is say, what do you want to do and what are the skills you want to develop? I think there's so many challenges without career progression in the current environment. If I look at supply chain, sorry, I'm going slightly off topic, but I think it's relevant. If we look at Industry 5.0 and all the changes, people have got a huge amount of volatility just trying to reskill with what they need to learn in the current environment with Internet of Things, robotics, AI generation. There's a lot going on. I think it's very appropriate. A lot of people will say, well, just give me time to get a handle on that before I move on to anything else, please.
That's a really interesting thought, isn't it? Because we just kind of assume that everybody is upwardly mobile in terms of the career, but there's various reasons, isn't there, why you might not want to do that. Maybe, you don't need the extra money or the extra responsibility, or, people have got different motivations, haven't they? So I suppose it's again, understanding your people, isn't it, as you've been saying. Another question we've got here for you, Ceri, is what would you say are the key aspects to developing the culture of trust? Interesting.
Leadership. Leadership and transparency. I am very, very blessed to work for one of the industry's, I would say, leading leaders, who has an amazing reputation of working in a servant leadership fashion. And I have followed him for 20 odd years as a leader. And I found that the key to why people followed him and worked for him was around trust. So he will trust me before he would ever question me. And that is hugely motivating. And because of that, when you create a culture of trust, you feel that people respond amazingly to it. And I've seen it. And I've also seen the flip side where there isn't trust, where there's micromanagement, and it is unbelievably demotivating without exception. And what we do is we work with leaders. One of my colleagues is an expert in leadership development and organizational design. And we actually work with leaders to understand the type of leader they are and where they are on their journey, and help them understand, how other people, what actually works in a high performance organization. And in a high performance organization, servant leadership is absolutely key. You can't empower people if you don't trust people, and you can't get the best out of people if you don't trust people.
It's really interesting. Session 3, we had our Dean of our business school, Kirsty, was talking about the kind of culture within organizations and the character of organizations as well. So I suppose trust is a big aspect of that character and that culture within an organization. And as you say, obviously that's a key part of that is leadership. I suppose the people that found a company or are top of a company tend to be the ones that hire staff, and that cascades down, doesn't it?
We have another quote we like to say, a fish rots from the head, which is a horrible quote, but in fact, if the leadership of an organization isn't strong, it impacts everyone. And it is horrible to work for an organization where the leadership is not aligned with the culture that you want as an organization. And I think it's so important that people recognize that. And it becomes increasingly difficult because, so I'm going back to my interest in leadership days. Often when you recruit leaders, they're recruited because they have a 2-year lifespan, a lot of leaders, CEOs, and they have to go with the command and control, because that's what they do. And I've seen many, many CEOs that command and control because that's how you'll get 2-year results. It's very difficult to change a culture and to get those results without that. And unfortunately, it creates the wrong environment for everyone. And then 2 years later, they're in the same position. And in fact, if you take the time to invest in the right type of leadership, it's done, and the culture changes, and it feeds through the organization. You create a more innovative culture. You create one where where the culture is conducive to change, and a lot happier people, to be honest, a nicer place to work.
Yeah, that's brilliant, Ceri. Loads of positive comments coming in. Our visiting scholar, Ahmet, says thank you for the insightful presentation. And
Thank you, Ahmet.
Ravina, who's been a wonderful supporter of our micro MBA, is one of our current students. It's a wonderful presentation, Ceri. No wonder you've cleared a lot of points with beautiful quotes. I just had a quick question. Can you please throw some light on difficult discussions for managers?
Yeah. Do you mean, I'm assuming you mean, when underperformance, etc. So never nice. Other difficult discussions. I mean, I can think you're thinking about, whether you have to make people redundant, all the difficult stuff which comes with being a manager. The advice I can give on that is absolute transparency and honesty, as much as is feasible. It's not always 100% feasible, I know, but being honest with people, asking how you can support them, it is key. And I think it's about support. So if you look at someone that's underperforming, what do I need to do to help you? The ways I've seen this done very badly is you are, you need to do this. Well, that makes me feel even worse, because I know I'm not no one wants to be bad at their job. They just don't. Some people struggle, and not everyone can be fixed to be perfect at that job. So what's the plan that we need to do to help people? Are they missing a skill gap? Are they missing a competency gap? There's always a way of addressing these things. And if all of that is done, what's a different option for this person? What are the options that they can go through? Is it within our organization? Have they done something fundamentally that means they shouldn't be in our organization? If so, what are the next steps there? So I think it's breaking down, what are the things we can do there? I'm a big fan of, if you look at, everyone's got strengths and weaknesses. We all have. Most people have got strengths that a lot of the time they don't realize it's a strength. So what I would always do as well is look at, what this person's maybe got development areas, but have they got any particular strengths? Can we look at a partnering or a coaching or on the job experience where they can maybe share what they're good at to motivate them, whereas they can learn from someone else? So there's lots of opportunities. You don't need to just put someone on a training course these days. And, we would talk about train the trainer and learn by example, and make sure there's a program in place there, which is not just go and do a course that will fix you and you won't be struggling anymore. What are the different types of blended learning support that you need to get there? And what's the type of experience? And what can I fundamentally as a leader do to help you?
Yeah, brilliant, Ceri. Mohammed's got an interesting question here as well, and kind of linking back some of these things with operational activities. So he says, how can corporate social responsibility, CSR, be used to reduce social issues which are generated by operational activities?
Oh, good question. I'm trying to think about that one. Do you mean, I'm trying to think, reduce social, do you mean sustainability and pollution? Just trying to get to, I don't want to interpret.
I think that's what he may confirm, but I think that's what he means, yeah.
How can social be used to reduce social issues? If I think you're talking about the challenge around sustainability, sustainability is a huge challenge, and I'm a firm believer, and we set some amazing targets of net zero, etc. at Unilever, all in the days when I was back there, and I know they do an awful lot. The challenge is, large organizations generate a lot of sustainability issues, and even AI, we're creating challenges for ourselves, and we're also being told we need to all reduce costs and be more agile, and the consumer wants more, and all you can do is look at the overall organizational design and how you want to build a culture and how you want to behave and what you need to achieve. This is why when we talk about organizational design, it's not just, what your targets, what's your reward and recognition, what's your tools and processes, how does it all sit together? And my view is that sustainability should be on everyone's OGSM, which is your top level organizational goals. If a target isn't on there, if a target isn't on your top level organizational goals, it really won't happen. And at that level, and the importance of sustainability, it needs to be on everyone's, in my opinion. Yeah.
Trevor, we covered this with Juliana a couple of weeks ago as well, didn't we, around sustainability? Yeah. So I wonder if you've got a view on this as well, Trevor.
Absolutely. That was what I was going to ask. And I think Ceri already touched on that. But I think if I want to go back into Mohammed's question, talking about CSR. So as an organization, or looking at, how do you, Kerry, I'm asking now, how do you tell organizations to deal with, what is their social responsibility? Because, for example, let's say you carrying out your operations in a particular environment or a particular country or area. So what else can you do to show that you're actually socially responsible? Maybe if you want to bring some examples.
Yeah, what else can you do to now
to show that you care for the people?
Yeah, so interesting. So you're moving on to that you care for the people. So we have so two aspects, I think, with what you're saying. So the first is operational sustainability. Now that would be something that organizations quite rightly manage themselves traditionally, because that should be part of their fundamentals now, and I don't think you can get away without it being, even if you wanted to. So that would be traditionally something you would manage within the organization. However, if we were going and we were working with an organization on their operations, by reducing waste, so electricity, energy is classed as waste when it's lost. So steam, for example, if we see steam coming out of machinery, so all of that stuff would be picked up. But we're a very values-driven company. So if we saw something, you wouldn't be able to stop us saying, you need to change that packaging, or do you know you can do it this way? Your second point on corporate responsibility, we have an anti-modern slavery policy, even in our terms and conditions, because we have 2 HR professionals in our organization, and it's something we feel very, very strongly for. And it's something that we would always, well, luckily we haven't seen seen issues there, but it's something we always call out. So for example, I was contacted on LinkedIn a few times recently about, would you like this person that can do this for you at this rate, or whatever, and it was something that I knew was well underpaid, and I called them out. I said, well, that's not in line with the UK rate. So I'm assuming that you're under, and it's just something we wouldn't do, because it's just not the right thing to do. So we're a firm believer of doing the right thing. And whenever we ask to work with an organization, eventually we often end up, when we look at the people side, looking into, what's your reward and recognition process? What's your market rate? And if you're not paying market rates, that's probably why your people aren't leaving. And these are the type of opportunities you need to be given. It's not just about money, obviously, it's about development and opportunities. But if you haven't got the money and you haven't got the opportunities, your staff are going to go. And it's as simple as that.
That's really important. That links back, doesn't it, again to organisational culture, doesn't it? And your values as an organisation, and therefore trust, doesn't it? I mean, if you're not trusting that your employees are going to do a decent job and give them proportionate pay, then what does that say about your organisation? Good point here from Jumbo Joy as well, saying it's a beautiful presentation. Thank you so much for the insightful teachers and quotes. In a situation where a firm is making more losses than profit, what would be the best advice to give?
We would go back to basics and say, let's have a look at what's going on. We would, at an organizational level, it's sort of wider than we are, but if we were told a factory, I'll use that example, is not making money, the first thing we would do is go and see what was going on, because you can't, anyone that says they can assess a problem from sitting at a desk is not in line with our values. We would go and see, we would ask why, we would talk to the leadership, we would talk to the shop floor, we would talk to the middle managers, we would talk to everyone about what was the problem that they were trying to address, what had they done already, what had worked, what hadn't worked, and then we would go straight to those loss trees. And that's what we do. We get the boards out, we draw up the loss trees, we talk to people, we say, and once you get to that problem, the issues and what's the symptom, what's the problems, what are the root causes? And what I didn't have time for, but I would always be happy to come back at any point, guys, is the next step. You may have heard of Ishikawa, and you'd look at, what are the categorizations of those problems? And for each of those, what could we do to improve it? And every root cause needs an action plan. And the reason the root cause is so important is, if you don't address the root cause, the problem comes back, leading to more waste. So I give you the example. You fix that water's leaking from your car. You put more water in, you put more water in, you put more water in. maybe you should have got the car fixed in the first place and found out what was going on.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point. It'd be great to invite you back another time. I feel another program coming in here, Trevor. We're getting tons of questions here, Ceri. We've got with the tightening budgets across all sectors. How do you think this is going to impact skills development of people, and how might this be managed to ensure a successful supply chain?
So firstly, thank you for the amazing questions. All of them have been absolutely brilliant.
Really yeah.
Testing my brain on these. That's an amazing question, because heartbreakingly, L&D is one of the first budgets to get cut. It's just what happens. And as supply chain, the reality is you're seen as a cost. No one ever says, oh, isn't supply chain amazing? Let's spend loads of money on them. You get, let's reduce COGS and let's reduce learning and development costs, because we just don't have money to do everything and we've got pressure from the city. And it's really, really difficult. And the people that are impacted, the impact on culture is huge when you reduce skills and skills development. And it's something in organizations I've had control over. I have never focused on reducing unless it was absolutely, there was no other option that I was given, because that's the really good stuff. I can practically, because that's quite, well, don't, but I can practically say I would look for ways that are the training, that when you use training, it can be reused. So I'm always an advocate of learning and development blended programs, because I believe you need to do shop floor training as well. So e-learning, I develop e-learning and we implement that in blended learning programs. So let's say, for example, you want to develop a skill in problem solving. Blended learning is very, e-learning is very, very cheap. So once you design once, you can deploy everywhere. So you could actually, if I developed a module for you in problem solving, you can deploy that globally. There's no extra cost as long as you've got a learning management system. And even if you haven't, there's ways around that. So that's the one thing. So for a very small cost per head, you can roll the modules out and you can translate into multiple languages, which is absolutely key. So everyone's getting the same training. They're all getting a baseline. That won't take you to practitioner level. That will take you to an awareness of what the key issues are, what the key things you need to do. You would then support that with the blended learning. So the cost to you is time of someone training someone else, or doing if it's a personal thing, like I'm going to do 5 examples, I'm going to document how I did problem solving, I'm going to implement the methodology. So you're already reinforcing the learning. So you can do that aspect of things. Or if money is really, really tight, you can do train the trainer, or you can do things, as I say, of working on that. But it's also really key as an organization to show the clear business case as much as you can. It's always really difficult because people say, oh, well, training, yeah, it would be nice, but you've got to show the value of the training. And the way you do that is really looking at what are the skills the organization needs to develop to deliver to the strategy into action. So if you don't do this, guys, you're actually not going to deliver your program, because we're not developing our people in the right way and continuously developing them. So organizations can't just look at this person needs to learn the skill of, this new machine line today. This person needs to learn problem solving, because in the new world, they're going to need to understand problem solving. They're going to need more emotional intelligence with Industry 5.0. So Industry 5.0, the advent of all these wonderful things like the Internet of Things, AI, robotics, etc. Supply chain need retraining, because there's a different way of doing things. And they actually not only need retraining, they need more training in certain skills like problem solving and emotional intelligence.
Just on that point, I think you've started to go in this direction, but what do you see as the future of operations?
Gosh, if only we all knew. I think what is obviously happening is there's a lot of ways of doing things faster, smarter. So I'm going to address this. I know we're running out of time. I'm going to address this quickly on 2 sides. Firstly, what I think is happening, and secondly, what the challenges with that are. So the first thing is, with the Internet of Things, you're going to have smart factories. Things are going to be changing. Planning and forecasting is really obvious. It's getting smarter and smarter and smarter. So all of the things we used to process from different systems, AI can find trends that we didn't. I used to be a planner, and we used to use our intelligence, but it's obviously a lot smarter than me. So They're finding trends in data that weren't noticed, so we can optimize, streamline things. Value stream mapping becomes a lot more accurate. So autonomous maintenance, I talked a lot about the importance of that. So, you know, we're moving to a stage where factories can detect if there's a fault on the line. You know, you can scan things, you can have visuals, robotics can do a lot of the manual processes. So there's a huge amount of positives. But with all of that, there's always risk and challenges. And what I worry about is that companies get all excited by the new technologies, very, very high investment, by the way, so they won't be getting excited soon with the COGS reductions needed. But they don't consider the change, because we are all in, we talk about VUCA, volatility, uncertainty, complexity, ambiguity is key, and we need to help people manage that changes. So the challenges are very high investment. We need to retrain people, and the people there's a lot of nervousness around robotics. There was in my day when I was working, you know, when I was working in large organizations in the past around robotics and the impact of that on people and people being made redundant. We need a plan already if we're implementing that. You can't just have a plan to implement in a new line with robotics. You need a plan for what you're going to do with the people, how you're going to support people, how you're going to reskill them, how you're going to train them. And one of the key challenges, it's exactly, nothing's changed from the old days. It's still GIGO. So if you put the term garbage in, garbage out, data is a huge issue here. If we put rubbish data in, we get rubbish data out. And I'm sure we've all played around with ChatGPT and said, well, that's a load of rubbish. Well, what did you actually ask it to do? And how clear were you? And what intelligence did you feed it? So that's the key challenge there. And the final challenge is what I said earlier, which is about, yes, certain administration jobs or very manual jobs will be quite quickly replaced. What are we doing to retrain people in the skills that they really need in the new world? How are we training them on problem solving and issue management? Because technology can't it can't say what the problem is. And I link right back to the first question: people not defining the problem. If you tell AI that you've got this problem, you're going to go off on a whole rabbit hole. You need to really think about that and understand how are you going to get to the problem in the first place. And the second thing I've talked a bit about, and again, another session, I think, emotional intelligence is absolutely critical. So I could talk for hours about that, because we found emotional intelligence is as important, if not more important, in the new world than IQ.
Wow, incredible. Ceri, it's been absolutely fantastic session. Some amazing comments from our audience. We've actually run out of time now for any more questions, but I assume, Ceri, people could connect with you on LinkedIn, or you've left your details
LinkedIn.
There as well.
I've got an awful name, so you'll find me very easily, or my details are here. So please contact me either at my university address at Chester or at my company address. And that's our website if you wanted to find out more about what we do.
That's absolutely brilliant, Ceri. Thank you so much. We're blown away by that one. And we'll be watching this one back and talking about this one a lot, Ceri. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
So just to wrap up, everybody. So actions for you. Make sure you've registered and put in your diary all the session dates for the micro MBA. As Trevor was saying earlier, super important to join live. And we've had some wonderful questions and comments today from our audience. So keep that coming. Have a look at Chester's other study options, undergraduate or postgraduate. Follow us on social media. Feel free to post and spread the word that you joined the micro MBA, you're enjoying it. And then, as Trevor says, that's it for Christmas. So we're going to wish you a really good Christmas and a happy New Year. And depending on obviously what country you're joining from, we hope you are able to have a good period between the next session, which is going to be session 7 with marketing with Professor Morvan on the 9th of January at 10 a.m. UK time. Any final words, Trevor?
Oh, I just want to say a big thank you, Ceri. That was really, really good. Really, really good. well, robust and packed. So thank you very much for that. And I think definitely you're going to come back in to talk to our MBA students when it comes to master classes. So we're going to talk about that after now. So particularly on emotional intelligence. And that might be something we'll take away from here, Alex. We'll talk about that to see how do we develop these, maybe some of our future sessions. Could even be our ICS International Citizen Show. So we could talk about some of these. So thank you very much. And again, thank you, audience. And I want to say thank you for joining. Thank you for participating, engaging, and involvement. We thank you so much. And I want to say have a wonderful break. And I'm looking forward to a blessed 2025 with you all. Thank you. Thank you, Alex.
Bye. Bye.